Hi, I'm Katie Crane, and this is the Pilates Lounge. Welcome to Season 4, my friends, of the Pilates Lounge podcast. This is a space for movement lovers, Pilates educators, and Pilates professionals who want to think a little bit deeper about the work we do. My name's Katie Crane. I've been teaching Pilates for over 20 years, and along the way, I've worn many hats. Studio owner, teacher trainer, mentor, and lifelong student of the work we do. I'm also a surfer, an adventurer, a mum, a busy wife, and someone who believes that movement is by far more than exercise. On this podcast, we talk about Pilates as a practice, not just what we do on the mat or on the equipment, but how Pilates shapes the way we move, teach, lead, and live our lives. We explore anatomy, health, business, culture, and the evolving identity of Pilates in the modern world. This is a place for honest conversations, lived experience, and perspectives that respect both the lineage of Pilates and the people practicing it today. So thank you so much for being here. Let's dive into the episode. Hi guys, welcome to the show. Today I'm actually sitting at home after a really long day. In fact, it's been a really long year, and nearly a half. About a year and a half ago, in fact, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. In March 2025, I relocated studios. There were a few reasons that I relocated, and I had relocation on the radar for quite a while. But at the time that I relocated, it was a really, really difficult time in business. My business name had been dragged through the dirt by some really, really horrible people who wanted to do whatever they could to ruin my business. I had not done anything wrong, but they did not agree with what I wanted to do with my own money, basically. It's a long story. So at that time, our local newspaper, who absolutely loves dragging small business down and loves putting dirt on people, and they do it all the time. I've seen them do it so many times. In fact, I've seen our local paper do this so many times that it has almost become a badge of honor that if you get picked on by our local newspaper, you're probably doing something right, that type of thing. But it certainly does not sit well as far as business is concerned, because nobody wants to be on the front page of the paper being touted as a villain, which is what happened to me. Despite all the 20 odd years that I had put into my community, it's quite amazing very quickly how people turn on you because they only hear one side of the story. And sometimes the news is really good at being very loud. So when that was all happening, I was also relocating, which always puts a strain on business. It's normal if you relocate your studio that you might lose up to 20% of your clients. So I did end up losing about 40% of my client base while I was relocating, which was really, really tough. And it meant that over that first year of relocation, not only were we putting a lot of money into rebuilding or building a brand new studio, putting in brand new equipment, all the things that go with a new studio, we were having to rebuild our brand. Now, what are we now? May 2026. So a little bit over a year past that date. And today, we just had an open day of a brand new part of the studio. So over the last year, we have installed parts of the studio in small pieces, partly because that's the only way we could afford to do it. We would bring in new clients, get enough income, that then we could add the next installment. And this is the very final installment of the Pilates studio. We have 3 rooms, the clinic where we take one-on-ones and semi-privates. We have a reformer room where there's 12 reformers. We have a mat room, which has now been turned into a wall tower room where we have 10 wall towers. I cannot tell you how important this has been for us to produce and for us to give to our community. And we've been teaching Reformer Pilates for about 10 years. At the other studio, I simply did not have space for anything except the reformers, which is part of the reason we moved. And what I was seeing over the 10 years of offering those reformer classes, we always tried to get people to come to mat classes and bar classes, classes that they weren't just on a reformer, but because of marketing and what consumers want, people were really only coming to reformer classes. And if you're a Pilates instructor, you hopefully recognize that the reformer is only one tool in all of the Pilates apparatus. And so when people are using just one tool in the Pilates apparatus, they end up missing out on so much of the system of Pilates and in turn, so many benefits of what the entire Pilates system and using all of the apparatus offers. And I was observing that in my own studio for many, many years. Today, that has changed. And because we have these two streams of services, we have the clinic and then we have the reformer, now tower and mat classes. When people come to the clinic, when they come one-on-one or as a semi-private, they always are using multiple pieces of apparatus. Somebody would never come into the clinic. We would never have somebody come into the clinic and keep them on one piece of apparatus the entire session. It just doesn't happen in our studio because we value and we understand the importance of each different piece of apparatus and the role that it plays in teaching people to move well. And while it's great that people love reformers, but this is what was always going in my head as far as function is concerned. If I always think of that term, neurons that fire together, wire together. What that means is when you do something over and over again, whether you have a thought process over and over and over again, or whether you put something into practice over and over again, those neurons, they're firing together and they end up wiring together. So you start to perform that practice or that thought process becomes even deeper embedded into the person that you are. So if you're laying down on a reformer, practicing your exercises over and over again, sure, you get really good at doing lay down movement, which is what the reformer mostly is. You get really good at doing quadruped movement, at doing kneeling movement maybe, or sitting on a box movement. But hey friend, thanks so much for listening. Did you know that you can now find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Pilates Professional? Now, if this episode resonates with you, please share it with someone else who would benefit from hearing it. Back to the show. I don't know about you. I don't know very many people in my community who spend all day long laying on their back. In fact, I can only think of one career choice where you spend a lot of time laying on your back. So if the movement is not functional for the person and you keep practicing that movement over and over again, they just get better at that particular movement. But how does that movement actually play a role in the wild or in their everyday life? And yes, I have a great appreciation for the reformer for many, many reasons. One of those reasons is I see that the reformer can help people mobilize their joints, in particular, their low limbs, so their hips and knees, in ways that may not be available to them at the time if they were standing. So we change the relationship to gravity by laying somebody down, and we're able to load up the knees and the hips without causing discomfort. And yes, they can get stronger laying down, doing footwork, doing feet in straps. But at some stage, we have to get them upright to practice that function in a walking, in a standing, in a balancing format so that they can actually apply that in everyday life. And I know, of course, you can do standing practice on the reformer, but in my mind, it is a huge leap from doing supine footwork, supine arms, kneeling arms, and then here we are standing on a reformer. And realistically, how many people that we see is it really appropriate for them to stand on a reformer? Not many people. And I know that that would depend on the type of people that you see, but I've been teaching Pilates for over 20 years. I know the type of people who really benefit from Pilates, and they are the people with less mobility, less flexibility, a low base level of fitness are the people who really benefit from the work that we do. But if we do not take those people from supine or from kneeling or from sitting to an upright position and then practice function and form, then we're really cutting off our nose to spite our face. So today, when I was in the studio, we had an open day and anybody can book into our wall tower classes. It was just so thrilling and so heartwarming to see people understanding that in the moment. We've been teaching reformer for 10 years, like way before it was ever popular. And I started reformer classes because I saw that it was becoming popular nationwide and pretty much everywhere I went, especially in Western worlds at the time, 10 years ago. Now we all realize that it's boomed, right? But that bubble is going to burst. And the only people who will be left standing are the ones who actually are applying the full function of the Pilates method within their classes. Yes, you can do bar classes. Yes, you can do mat classes. You can do all of those things. But there's something really special about integrating movement using the springs, specifically on the Pilates apparatus. So I looked around the room, and some of these clients have been with us from the get-go. And seeing their eyes light up, seeing them actually understand why it's going to be so important for them to now practice wall tower classes. They're actually springboard classes, but all of our clients thought that springboard classes meant jump board classes. And so we called them wall tower classes. We actually have springboards on the wall, but that's okay. But when they came to that class and we performed pretty much 3/4 of the class standing up, using the springs, using the push through bar as some feedback, and doing movement that they were familiar with, that they've been practicing on the reformer. They understand the movement, but now they can see how they can actually apply that movement to their everyday life. And if you're not doing that, then you're probably preventing clients from moving, from progressing to where they need to be. I mean, at what stage of life are you actually laying down? Well, you're either a baby or you're just about dead. So we have to be doing stand-up work. When people come to the clinic, we always are using the Wonder Chair for stand-up work, the Cora line. We have towers in there, Cadillac, the wall ladder. We have all of the apparatus. And yes, we do use the reformer, but we don't use the reformer any more than we use the rest of the apparatus. I just wanted to share that with you guys because, like I said, I've been teaching for over 20 years and I really did learn something today. And it has been a long time coming because we relocated a studio and that cost us about $100,000 more than what I ever anticipated it costing. We lost all of those clients, so we had to rebuild our brand. But also, all of those springboards and just setting up that room cost about $30,000 on its own. So these are the risks that we take as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, as people who are not just looking for a way to make money, but we're actually invested in the method of Pilates, and we are invested in Pilates as a system, as a whole, as an entire process, because we understand the importance of that system. I just wanted to share that with you guys, and it kind of blew me away that I could be in business for so long and still seeing these glimmers of these light bulb moments of realizing the importance of what we do, the importance of what our studio does, what my staff members do, what we do as a community, but also just that we are so willing and so brave to take these risks so that we can actually share something that is so important to our community. I really hope throughout all of this explosion of reformer fitness, however you think of it, whatever you want to call it, I really hope and I really believe that at the other end, people will come back to the system that we know needs all of the apparatus. And I teach a reformer certificate, but I see that certificate as an initial stepping stone for students to get into the industry, and then they can further education. What our certificate does is that it allows people to start to work as a reformer or a mat instructor in the Pilates industry. But there is a very clear expectation that they would continue their studies with another school, because we don't do any other apparatus. There's plenty of amazing apparatus, further apparatus schools out there that we quite happily recommend to our students. There doesn't need to be another one. But this is really my hope for the future, that there's always business people who are willing to take risks, that there are always going to be studio owners that really are invested in the method, and that there are always going to be instructors who want to continue their learning to really serve community the way that they deserve. Thanks for listening. My name's Katie Crane, the Pilates professional. See you soon. And that's a wrap, my friend. Now, before you go, make sure you check out the show notes. That's exactly where you'll find anything we're offering alongside this very episode, and the link to subscribe to the Pilates News newsletter. Our subscribers receive free handouts and resources connected to the topics we explore right here. They're specifically created for Pilates professionals, movement educators, and Pilates lovers just like you. So, until the next episode,